campus. So we don't work with any specific school. So as and when we get requests that they want to either convert their existing courses online or start like make new courses, we help with both of those things as well. And we have a team of like 2 instructional designers, which include myself, and 2 multimedia specialists, which include Jared O'Year and Jennifer Jordan, who you saw right now. Roxanne's a part of our team, but she works specifically with the schools. It's a just different setup. So we're a very small team, but I think we do a lot of good work. So in this session, we'll discuss what quality means to all of us and how we can achieve those quality in our courses, examine how the online production services team applies different standards of quality matters to their coursework. And then we'll discuss a little bit more about like what the instructional design and the multimedia workflow look like. And just in the like for the fun of it, we'll create a QM compliant activity. So in one word, what does quality mean to you? I'm so sorry, I don't know why this is not working. Probably I had to do a slideshow. It's okay. Yeah, I mean, we can just go around and speak about it since there's no one else. But this is supposed to be a poll. So yeah, if you'd had to describe quality in a word, what would it be, or what do you think it is for you? We can start with you.
Oh man, and one word is hard. I would say just part of it could be inclusivity, like just being able to think about everybody around you, and maintaining quality of the content you produce involves all different kinds of mindsets and frameworks. So the higher, or not the higher, the more that we include all of those different types of mindsets, the more that we can bring quality to the work and meaning.
Awesome. Yeah, Jared.
For me, I think alignment comes to mind. Ensuring that the outcomes match what the intention of the course is. I also do think though sometimes one word is pretty hard. I thought about like maybe successful, but even that maybe can be a bit subjective. But I guess what I mean by that is like if it succeeds in one's original intention. So maybe like successful / efficient, I think can equate to quality.
And how do you say your name?
Yes, Javier.
Javier. Okay.
It's hard to do one word, but I would say, oh man, I had the word I was gonna say too. Maybe like standard or something like that. To me, when I think of quality, I'm thinking of something that's positive in a sense. So I guess that's a better word for me, would be positive.
Awesome. Yeah, I think when I think about quality as well, I think about like engagement and experience, and like how are we enhancing that? So in general, when I think about a good quality course, I also think about enhanced student learning experiences, but I get that it's hard to do in this one word bit of it, but thanks for humoring me. So yeah, just a story, and this can be a bit extreme, but imagine there's a course where everything's not clear. So there's the home page, but the syllabus is also the home page, and students are going into the module. There is information about what the module is. There is content and there is an assignment, but they have no idea when they need to submit it, how they're submitting it. So the instructions are not clear. But now imagine a course where a welcome video greets the students, modules are well laid out, and syllabus is clear. Students know what is expected from them, and all of the objectives, the navigation is simple. So instead of having like 2 places or 2 pages linked to the same thing, everything's separate, and one week flows easily to one another. So I would also put quality just in thinking about how does the student experience look like? So how does the online production services team help faculty create better learning engaged experiences for students. Quality matters. So what is quality matters? And I think before I start, maybe it's good to also know from all of you, how much of quality matters do you know, and are you familiar with the rubric?
My institution, we just signed a contract with them, so we're on our initial rollout. We were hoping by this fall to where we could expand, because at first we were just saying, just do the self-reviews, get familiar with those basic standards, and then we'll kind of go from there. And then we're hoping for the fall to actually go in and do like actual QM reviews. Then we realized how detailed that process is. So we're kind of taking a step back a little bit, because we're a small institution and a lot of us have to wear many hats. So I'm having to do instructional design. We just rolled out simple syllabus. We just went to D2L from Schoology, so we had that transition. And now we're trying to throw QM on top of that. So it's like, let's bump the brakes a little, kind of refocus, and then move forward. But that's why I was interested in this session, to kind of see how y'all use QM, and then kind of see if there's anything that I can take away from this to help better facilitate our process as well. So still kind of new, I guess, is a simple response.
Yeah, I think that's helpful to know, and happy to hear from both of you as well.
I do. I work here at SMU on the online production services team, so I'm a colleague with Prerna. But I do feel like my main focus is in multimedia production, so like video editing, creating animations, things like that. So I've taken 2 courses in QM, but I'm always trying to, I guess, strengthen my understanding of it, because it's by far the weakest aspect, I think, of my current toolbox. So
I feel the same way.
yeah, and Prerna is very wonderful at explaining everything, so I'm curious to hear more. But yeah, it's kind of about me.
I'm new entirely to the realm of experience design in the higher ed area, so I'm not going to lie, I don't know, but I'm happy to learn about it. And then with what we're doing right now, the most I can tell you at Dallas College, we're using, we transferred from Blackboard to D2L.
Okay.
And so now we work in Brightspace. And so we have a lot of tools in that are the third-party vendors as well, providing services. Like we have, like for the syllabus, we have Concourse, and I don't know if that's going to matter with this, but that's like our current realm. So something like Click, as you talked about.
I think you will, because I don't know about that Concourse or anything, but I feel with QM that the outside tools that you integrate into the system, it's all a part of this, can help check the box in a sense for QM. So
yeah.
And how do you like Brightspace? I know it's kind of sidetracking, but
well, no, it's fine. I think because I've never been a part of any learning management system as a staff. Like I only remember Blackboard as a student, and so that's the experience I have. But D2L, I mean, I think it's good for some parts. Other parts, I feel like it could have much better interface. I'm also a UX designer naturally, so there's a lot of things that I could feel like I critique everything. But overall, for the most part, it does its job, and having to talk to the Brightspace community and what we call a V2L squad that also manages everything. Yeah, it's an interesting balancing act in the last 6 months of being in the job.
You mind if I ask what elements do y'all use here?
We use Canvas.
Okay.
So for us, I think things are a little different because we also have access to like City Labs, the Design Plus tool, which also addresses a lot of our, accessibility concerns, but like helps us put things QM wise. But that doesn't mean that, it couldn't be done in a other LMS like Brightspace. I know D2L is like right now, a lot of colleges are transitioning to D2L, and I would also love to learn about how that looks like from an LMS perspective. But I hope that from this session you can at least take like how to have those conversations with faculty, even if it's not something that you can visualize it looking the same on your learning management system, right? So yeah, just to give you a quick overview of like Quality Matters, it is a nationally recognized peer review process. It is also faculty driven. So in that sense that it was created with a lot of evidence. So it was created with evidence-based research, but instructional design principles in mind as well. So there are 8 general standards, and within that there are 44 specific standards. I will walk you through those standards in a while. The main purpose of Quality Matters is to help not just instructional designers, but also faculty in making their courses just more clear, measurable, and accessible. And I think when people say accessible, they just think about like the ADA stuff, but sometimes even like instructions and using inclusive language kind of counts towards that accessibility. So when you're thinking about Quality Matters, it helps you think about the other parts of it and how are we catering to learners with different learning styles. So just what are the standards? So like standard 1 talks a little bit about like course overview and introduction. So how is your course set up? What's the navigation looking like? Standard 2, which is like the meat of everything. I think if you get this right, you're almost like QM hero. So it's like your learning objectives. Basically, what are your students doing in your course level and your module level? Standards 3, 4 speak about like assessments and like instruction materials. Standards 5 also speak about like learning activities, your learner interaction. Now this includes like what are the different learning points in your course. So this is just not like discussion boards, but what about peer feedbacks? What about office hours? How is the professor communicating with the students? How are students communicating with each other outside of class or inside, like in class as well? So even in your live session, what are those different touch points that you're thinking about? And 6 and 7 speak a little bit about like technology and learner support. So if we do use all of those tools that we have, and a lot of our learning management systems have different tools like our video hosting tools, but coding tools, Lucid, whiteboards, how are we ensuring that all of that is accessible, but it's also meeting the needs of the course, right? I can add 10 tools, but they may not meet the purpose of my course. And learner support, what are the different kinds of learner supports that's available? You can address this through your syllabus as well. And the last bit is your accessibility and usability. So yeah, we're going to talk about like just the standards 1, 6, and 7, and how do we apply these standards here at SMU. So standards 1, 6, and 7 is like just the foundation, right? So we think about like the bigger picture stuff, like the macro stuff, our syllabus. Are the expectations clear? So we address this in our blueprint itself. Faculty work with us on a blueprint which has all of this information about what are the grading schemes looking like? What's the office hours? How many times do I think I want to meet with the students? What's my response time going to be like? So this is how it looks like on Canvas, but all of this information is also present in like our simple syllabus template as well as in our blueprinting template. So we're trying to address all of the different parts and components of just like ensuring when the student enters or begins the course, their questions are being answered. So in the first week itself, they don't get overwhelmed. So we have like course overview videos from the multimedia side of it. We have a meet the instructor video to create that community, but to also lay down those expectations from like students, what we want from them, and also what we hope that they can gain from this course. And in terms of like just a little bit more about like navigation tools. So here you see we have like a start here, like a course. I like to call it like a housekeeping module. So this just talks about like what the course is about, but how do you navigate this course? So say if you're transitioning to a completely new learning management system. So if they're moving from Blackboard to D2L, like what do students need to know? Like how do they access assignments, or how do they probably submit a discussion board topic, right? So just helping them like maybe with the quickest like quickest questions or answers, and a couple of other things about like how do they behave online in like an online learning setup. So we have an online learning etiquette page. We have like a couple of other things, like we have a page called what you need to know. So in that page we have something like what's the purpose of this course, what's the structure and delivery going to look like, what are the communications. So like when I spoke about like office hours, response time, assignment feedback, are there any other important things? So say if it's a coding course, they need to download Python or they need to have Eclipse on their system. That's something that they need to know as well. And when they're talking about privacy policies, any tools that we use outside of the LMS need to have privacy policies so that we are like catering to students, and students are also aware of like what are they using, etc., right? And accessibility policies of all our tools that we use. That just helps us cover our bases, but also know where are the potential points where students can face certain issues. And now talking about like our standard 2, which are our learning objectives. I'm just showing you the Canvas side of it, but we do have like a blueprint, which is where all of this comes from. So in like our, this is like a example of our module overview page. So here in our module overview pages, again, we have like a module intro video. Now these are we have a couple of required videos with faculty when they come to us for filming. So those required videos are the course overview videos, the meet the instructor videos, and all of the module overview videos. Faculty can approach the module overview videos in two different ways. They could either talk about like what the objectives of the course are, but they could also talk about what some key takeaways are or reminders. But so that's left to their discretion, but in a way it's just helping them like set that context for the course, like for the course and for the module when they're beginning it. So we have like a module overview video, and then we have our learning outcomes. We also speak to how they align with our course learning objectives. So our course learning objectives are mentioned both in the syllabus, but also in the housekeeping module. And so I can, if I'm a student, I'm like, okay, if I see explain the process to ratify and amend the US Constitution, I can go back and I can also see like, I can see already an area of improvement here to say that I probably should write down the course level objective. And, you know, students can, instead of going back and forth, they can already see it themselves here. So it just helps me see like what's the bigger picture stuff, but also what's the smaller picture stuff as well. And when you see even like on Canvas, because we use City Labs, this is what our template looks like, but making sure that all of our tables have those captions as well. So it's not, it's already embedded in the template, so we don't do a lot of accessibility check with that. And just speaking about like standards 3, 4, 5. So here we also have, we kind of lay down how each of the activities that they do in the modules. So like say they have readings, they have YouTube videos, they have lecture videos, how are they aligned to our outcomes? And here we only speak about module learning outcomes. So in every module, we also have the module overview pages, which speak about, okay, these are all our activities and this is how it's aligned or with all of these module learning outcomes. What is this type and how much time it's going to take. So giving them that time on task specifically for students or for students who are taking this asynchronously, or it's a very self-paced course, telling them that we think these readings are going to take you like 6 hours. It helps them plan their content. Or we think this quiz is going to take you 120 minutes. Maybe they'll have to realize that they'll have to sit somewhere and take this instead of just taking it on the go if it's a 10-minute quiz. And just like, so this was just an example of how we laid this down here. And so from here, if you see all of the readings, they speak about just like what the constitutional law is. So going back a page, we have this explain the process to ratify and amend the US Constitution. And we have readings that are talking about this. So we have like the Third Amendment, First Amendment, Second Amendment. So we can see that there's already that alignment. So when you're thinking about those activities and alignment, is to also see like I have like a module learning objective, but how is this module learning objective helping me achieve all of those activities that I have? So when you have conversations with faculty, they may have like create a vision board as a module learning objective, but they don't have an objective.
I think you have somebody that joined.
Oh, yeah, they don't have anyone, sorry, so yeah, they don't have an activity which says to create a vision board, but they have something that's already in their module learning objectives. So you can help faculty with creating that, or if they have something called discuss, but there is no discussion board, and there's just an assignment. But the idea is to also may ensure that they're using different kinds of activities that are available. So we have discussion boards, we have quizzes inside of videos. We also have assignments. Those assignments could be peer reviews, reflection journals, literature reviews. So working with faculty to also see what's the best possible activity that can align with the learning objectives that you have. At SMU, we use at SMU, we use backwards design to inform our course design processes. Now, I know a lot of universities use UDL, but there are other frameworks as well. Like in my previous organization, we use design thinking, but more or less, I feel like the main core of everything is just designing for the exception. So when you're thinking about who you're designing for, just don't think about like this is my user persona, but this could also be like my student. So thinking about that one student was probably an anomaly, but designing for that exception kind of helps you cater to actually everyone as well. So QM also helps a lot in like thinking about why do we need to have those different learning activities? Why do we need to have different ways we can measure everything? So yeah, just like some other examples is that when we have assignments, to also think about rubrics. And when I have conversations with faculty, just doesn't be like, this is what the QM rubric says so, but it's more about putting yourself in like the learner's shoe, right? So if I say like, I want to know, like, if I do this assignment, how are you grading me? I don't want you to mail you and ask like, what was my grading criteria? And you'd probably get 20 mails and you'll have to respond to like students with all of those same things. But you can just have a rubric which talks about those grading criteria itself. So when you're also like thinking about QM, you have your QM rubric as a good base, but I think it helps you tie your anecdotal evidence with like actual research as well, and say like, as a student this is great, but this is also what industry best practices are. And then this is just a screenshot of like in a module overview page, the instructor is just talking about how they can engage with all of the content that's there. So say what are the study questions, so when they're going over those readings, those videos, what are the things that they need to think about when they are approaching that assignment? Or what are some of the other reminders that you have to finish your assignment before you move to module 5? What are some points of interest? So I want you to probably pay more attention to this lecture video, or I want you to take this reading more seriously because this is going to be like a bigger part of your course, right? So just thinking about how you could use different places and different ways to just make sure that the students are engaging with the content. I can easily copy paste content, but also thinking about those food for thought questions, right? How are we engaging students? Like I have like, okay, read these, like complete these readings, but while you're reading it, think about X, Y, Z. And yeah, this again, just something is about like discussion boards. Like I think I spoke about this a little bit about interaction. So how are you promoting interaction through also inclusive prompts, but also through like interactive videos? So we have options here to like embed quizzes, embed different types of multiple choice, not just different types of questions. So like we have like multiple choice questions, but you have also open texts. We have fill in the blanks, etc. I'm sorry that these are very small screenshots, but you'll find these in the box folder, and with a lot of the quality matters what resources, I would say. So you'd find the rubric, but you'd also see how different universities are approaching their quality matters work here. And this is just, this speaks about like the communications between each of like the professor and the student as well. So there is like the discussion board when we talk about regular and substantive interaction, but also thinking about professor to student interaction. And just going back to the last bit, which is like accessibility and usability. So I just wanted to like share an example. So we worked on a nutrition course where this professor wanted the students to read this label and let them know whether this was a healthy snack or no. But a lot of people cannot read labels. Here is when I used ChatGPT to like just say like, can you break down this label for me? And it broke it down, and I added this to the assignment. And then the professor asked the student those questions basis that. So for people who could you read this label well and good, but I also broke it down into like other things. And then you're in all of our videos, and this just doesn't include lecture videos, but even YouTube videos or any external videos, podcasts, we ensure that we have transcripts attached. And I think the biggest example would be me. I cannot watch English videos without transcripts. So I would love to have transcripts and or like captions, because it's so much like it's much more easier to follow along than to think about like what's the person talking, right? So also, again, like I said, put yourself in that student hat, but you also have evidence to back that claim. And it's not like, oh, it's just me, but it's like thousands of students have said this. So and when I have this conversation with faculty about accessibility, it's not just something when we're putting these things up on our LMS. It's something that we do from day one. So when they do submit their blueprint and their content, we start checking it. So if you have YouTube videos that they are adding in, just check immediately if they have captions, or if they don't have captions, how can you add those captions? Or can this YouTube video also be filmed by the faculty themselves? Because if it's a very important video, but you can't use it, there are other ways to also add that in. Or when we have those alt text, we have PPTs, making sure those PPTs are also accessible. So the color contrasts are maintained. They have the proper slide layout, but they also have those titles and alt text and any images, not just on Canvas, but on PPTs. And I think sometimes people forget about like PDFs and articles, just ensuring that all of those are also accessible. So I use screen readers on all of our PDFs just to ensure that they are accessible, and I read it out. I make the screen reader read it out, so I know if there's some parts where it's not reading it correctly, that it's not accessible, and trying to find different versions. You could work with your libraries to find those versions of like PDFs which are more accessible, especially if they're scanned documents, right? Which are not technically accessible. Yeah, this is not working, but just like a question for whoever's on this call, as well as all the three of you, which standards do you find easy to address in your work? Like it, I know you don't use quality matters, some of you, but you already must be doing this work, right? Like some of those quality matter standards as well. So which of these do you think is like either easy to address or you're already addressing in your work? Uh, 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 yeah, you can go ahead.
So, like I said, we're still kind of new to this, but I think we're trying to push for instructors to do like the welcome videos or to have things like that. I think that's an easy fix from our point of view. For the instructors, they still have a little pushback that they don't want to be on camera. They don't want to, they've already had the syllabus up. Why should they do more? But we're just trying to get them to understand this is going to improve the quality of the course, which in turn will improve the student experience. And I don't know how SMU is, but at least for us, our funding now is based off of student success. So it's like, if you don't want to help your students improve their success rate, you're just going to hurt yourself in the long run. So, not sure exactly which standard that goes for, but I know that's one of the steps that we're trying to improve on as well. So,
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and then I can come back to you, Jared?
Sure. Actually, I want to echo what you said about the instructor point of view. I think a lot of these can be easy to address, but you have to balance the opinions and, not just opinions. They also have a lot of, I'm sure, research or just like experience behind what they go through every day with their students to show that like what they say matters. So finding that balance is hard when it comes to addressing each of the standards. I feel like the easiest thing could be the accessibility. solely because it's kind of clear as day. You're just focusing on your alt text, and anything that is just needing to be replicated in a different way for others to perceive it properly. And yeah.
For me, the first thing that comes to mind is measurability of the outcomes. And to be quite frank, ChatGPT is like great for it because you can just ask like, yeah, is this outcome measurable? If not, like use Bloom's taxonomy to make it measurable. And usually it's just like changing the wording of it. I think that's nice. And then yeah, I think accessibility, again, as like a video editor, is something I appreciate. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and for the people on like the Zoom call, if you want to put it on the chat, I know you joined late, so but we're happy to read your responses on which standards you find easy to address in your work. Yeah, I think I also agree. I agree with all of your sentiments. It's harder with the instructor buy-in, and that is where I feel like our blueprint really plays into effect because we don't really expect them to have everything ready, right? So I just like my first meeting, I'm like, don't worry about the blueprint. It's like a 10-page document, but we are just going to work on the first page for 2 weeks. And then we're going to work on the second page for the next 2 weeks. So it breaks down that process. And even in the ID consult, we do speak a lot about quality matters, but it's not something that, I'm just like constantly telling them, but because it's so embedded in our process, I'm just like constantly reviewing and like they put it, I'm like, can we change this? I don't think it's the best student learning experience process. And you will find faculty who will question you or who will challenge you, but it is once they see the end result, I think most of them always see that value of like, okay, I see why we needed this. And I also say like using or embedding quality matters in our courses is like current pain for future gain. And at SMU, if our courses are like quality matters certified, like instructors can take them for 4 to 5 years without changing unless like, the entire course changes or like this doesn't exist anymore, like it becomes redundant. But if it doesn't, they can go as long as 5 years without having to change it because they've gone through that QM certification. So also having those kind of conversations with faculty is like, I know it's a lot of work right now and it's probably not something that you're used to doing, but think about it from the longer perspective that it helps you have those conversations as well. Yeah, I think the first standard is easier for instructors to meet. Yeah, that's true as well. Thanks for that. So just talking, I know we have 14 minutes, so I'll breeze through some of those things. So just talking about like our instructional design workflow. So what I do is my first phase is the blueprinting. So I work with the faculty or subject matter experts to complete the blueprint, review objectives for measurability. So like just weeks 1 to 3 is all about objectives, measurability, etc. Phase 2 is where the bulk of the work happens and they have 12 weeks. So we have like a 25-week timeline for courses typically. And it can seem a lot of time, but with quality matters, that takes, I think you require all of that time as well. So between weeks like weeks 4 to 12 and sometimes to 16 as well, I co-create these activities, find aligned readings, and also help like develop those assignments and thinking about like regular interaction points between like faculty to student, but student to student as well. In phase 3, we already do some accessibility bits on like phase 1 and phase 2, but when it comes to like PPTs and that they've started adding all of the content, we are checking accessibility of all of those PPTs, images inside those PPTs, any videos that are inside those PPTs, articles, readings, websites, etc. And just the last phase is building things out on Canvas. We use City Labs. Now we've created this template using City Labs, which already addresses all of those accessibility points. So our module overview page is already structured where it's supposed to have like a video, then the objectives, and then we have like an instructor notes, and then we have the aligned activities. So it helps also faculty to think about, okay, these are the things that need to go in my module overview page. So how am I working backwards as well? And from a multimedia workflow, initially the multimedia works with the faculty QA, just to have like an initial multimedia consult. They share best multimedia practices, not also in accordance to QM, but also talking about like just what their experiences are. I think if I can speak for Jared, they also talk about like how long should a video be, like what's the quality of the video looking like. Like video quality is not a QM standard, but it still impacts student learning engagement, right? So they do speak about that. Week 2 is where they do a lot of pre-production, so they help like with the script creation or even script reviewing with faculty to ensure that faculty uses inclusive and accessible language. So when instead of faculty saying like, as you can see on the screen, but there may be someone who can't see, or like we just heard, but there could be that someone who hasn't heard. So making sure that you're not using language which is not inclusive. And then just phase 3 is if faculty are using any slides, just making sure they're also accessible, maintaining color contrast, video is easy to follow, so faculty is not on a page but talking about some other page, just ensuring all of those things. And in post-production, we work with the IDs to add all of those interactive elements like quizzes, YouTube videos, links within film content. So how does the ops help faculty to be QM ready, but also to use QM? Faculty here at SMU are required to take, or we encourage them to take rather, the teaching online course by QM. That just gives them an idea of like what QM really is. So because we keep using QM a lot in our conversations, and I think it's helpful for them to have that. And then we have this ID consult. So right after our course kickoff meeting in the ID consult, I also speak a little bit more about like what is QM, why do we need to make the course more QM compliant, and what are the course QM requirements for course design. So it's always in the process, and it's not something I add at the end. I have an ID FAQ document, which all of the IDs use as well. So we share it's shared with the faculty to tackle big QM standards specifically, because if you fail on the objectives, like if you have not measurable objectives, and sometimes faculty will use demonstrate, which is a measurable objective, but say demonstrate an understanding, which is not a measurable objective. So some of our ID document helps with helping them understand like how can you tackle some of these big QM standards. We have a course design blueprint. I'll show you that in a minute, which is also designed to address some of those QM standards, and like project tracking document. So that tracking document is like broken down into like activities, assignments, etc. So just telling them what are the different QM parts that they need to be working on while they're finishing their course. And we have a QM burn list, which helps both reviewers and faculty on easy ways to like create online courses, but to also review courses. And lastly, just I wanted to add this slide for people who are either new to QM or who want to make QM compliant courses. ChatGPT is a great resource for like creation of module and course objectives, but also creating inclusive discussion prompts, making sure your assignments are clear. So you can also say like, imagine I'm a student, these are my assignment instructions. What do you think can be better? Especially in like coding assignments, right? Sometimes faculty just add like a coding assignment and say, submit like your response to that. But as students, probably they need a lot more, especially if they're undergrad students, they need a lot more guidance. So Midjourney, Adobe Firefly for creating images, ASU Ed Plus, I don't know if you guys were on the panel, Jennifer Jordan spoke a little bit about that. It has a host of different things. You can create rubrics, you could generate questions for your quizzes, you could generate all text for images. Grammarly, if you want to just improve the quality of your instructions and just checking grammar. Notebook LM to create podcast style videos for your class or course or class. And Backtick if you want to generate captions for YouTube videos. Yeah, I think it's not going to show on this, but I did have a activity. Just give me 1 second. I think so. Slido was in mine and it didn't move to this. Yeah, you can. I don't know if you can see this QR code. If you can log into this QR code and.
I think you have to add a code extension. I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah. So this is not my laptop, I think,
Oh.
so that's why. But those of you on the chat, if you have any questions or if you're, I'm happy to answer.
I appreciate that last slide with the AI information.
I can put the questions on the chat, maybe. So yeah, it's hard to, I don't know how I can change my. So we have, I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to do something, but you can use this QR code, or I can put that on the chat as well. You can,
Want to be important here?
Working here since,
You like this so far?
got yeah. Something I didn't anticipate.
So,
And where do you work?
Hill College, time in junior college, in Hillsborough.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
where they
Okay.
built the new Buc-ee's?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's the easiest way to explain to everybody. So,
that's the biggest Buc-ee's, right?
That's where 35 is.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that is pretty much where yeah, any questions that I can help answer? We have 2 minutes only, but in case you have questions after this, also feel free to email me anytime. But happy to answer
I do have
anything.
one question.
Yeah.
I know every LMS is different, but does your institution have QM templates? The reason I ask is because since we are on D2L, this might benefit you as well. We recently signed a contract to upgrade to Creator Plus,
Mhm.
which is just an additional tool that they have. And there's already pre-built templates within D2L, but there's an add-on layer called QM templates.
Mhm.
And I thought it was just gonna be pre-built, but we're gonna have to build those out ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we have it on Canvas, like, so the templates that we have built specifically for the online production services team is designed with QM in mind. Now, Design Plus didn't have like a QM template as such, but we took all of our learnings from like best instructional design practices and also taking those courses on like QM, on like what the course should look like. So basis that we decided like this is what our course structure would look like. So our syllabus is going to look like this. When they come, the homepage would have like a welcome message and then move on to like the housekeeping module. So what are the things that need to be there in the housekeeping module? It was also like with iteration and some student feedback, teacher feedback as well. But yeah, I can share like a structure of what it looks like, but it cannot, like, I can't export it because I think I don't know what the duels package is, but Canvas has a different package, so it's not going to get exported. But I can help you with like just like a basic structure of how that could
okay.
look like. So.
Yeah, I'll definitely get in contact with you.
Yeah.
The second thing would be, are y'all actually doing the QM reviews in-house? Or is it just like a guide, I guess, to sort of build out the courses?
So we do. So we all of us are peer review certified as well. So we take every member of the online production services team has taken like the applying quality matters to our courses, but we've also taken peer review courses. So we're all certified to review each other's courses.
Okay.
So we get courses from like say a faculty who doesn't work with us. but they also send it to us and we review those courses and like that course and just tell them like, okay, these are good areas, but these are areas for improvement. So we do the course review as well. Sometimes it has happened where we review the course and then the faculty is like, okay, can you help me make this course because I've seen all of these changes as well. So that happens. But because we usually follow QM in our course design, our courses don't fail QM as much because it's very embedded into the process, as opposed to having QM as an afterthought or not thinking about QM. So even when I think when you have those conversations with faculty, is to say that let's just think about it now, so we're not rushing at the end. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, and they were kind of as you were going through, so I'll ask maybe one that might highlight others. But when it comes to user personas, the one thing that I've noticed at Dallas College is the reason that I have this role is because they said they're not focusing on students at all, and they need a designer to come in and actually focus on the students, because there is that gap where it's always the designers and the faculty are speaking on behalf of the students.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like anything that you're using for user personas or just conducting research, like how do you do that with students to make sure that their thoughts and emotions, everything is heard to actually be implemented?
Yeah, so I would say at SMU, that's something we're still working on. But what we've tried to do now is we have like wrap up surveys at the end of every module. So that's a good place to like collect all of that student data. So we just talk about like was this content helpful to prepare you for the live session, or like how did you find the timing estimates to know whether our timings are right or no, or just like a couple of questions. So that's a good way. But the in my previous organization, we also did a lot of focus groups, specifically because our entire program was online for a year. We spoke with a lot of students, and like we had a couple of things as to like what will improve your student experience, or what are some of those biggest challenges you're facing in online learning. And the reason we had that was because it was a completely online program, and we had folks from say China, but India, and also from Australia, right? So now you have an assignment deadline. It's very simple, but the assignment deadline time changes for everyone. The assignment deadline time can be 5 a.m. for someone in China versus like 5 p.m. for someone here. So how are we also making sure that when we expect students to submit their assignments, we have those things? So we really had those focus groups to see like what's the most optimal time to even submit an assignment. So making very, very small changes. We did a lot of design thinking workshops with students. So we used to like do a lot of how might we questions, and like get prototyping from students, like make prototypes and like check with students which is better as well, like from a course design perspective. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but
that's perfect. Yeah, because UX does that a lot, and I was like, why don't you guys implement this? You need qualitative and quantitative research, and they're just like whoosh. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm going to take it back and say there's other colleges doing the same. So that I appreciate. And there was another question I had. So there was a quote that you had up there about promoting interactions through inclusive prompts, interactive videos. So since campus, like what we do with D2L is they will tell us that there are releases for widgets or features or anything. And so we kind of have to figure out what we want to implement based on what they give us. But when it comes to things like that, is that something that you are working with people within Canvas, like a representative, that you can say, we need this, and then they develop it for you? Or is it the same as us, where they just give it to you and you have to?
Yeah, we work off of the tools that we have. I think, I don't know how it is in your case, but overall with higher ed, I think things move slowly. So even if you request for a tool, I think it comes in with a lot, like budgets, etc. And you also have to think about like privacy. So we can only use tools that are vetted by the university and that's integrated well within Canvas. Say like I've been wanting to get Articulate Rise for a long time, but it's always been something that's just thinking about how it's going to look like on our Canvas pages and on our templates as well. So it's a larger conversation. So similar to I think what you face is just that we are still trying to figure out what that balance is of like how much can we innovate, like build versus buy stuff.